InGoal Radio, the podcast, training camp edition for 2022. We are up and running around the National Hockey League, and boy, is there some great battles for position, some incredible storylines to keep track of, and what about the gear that we're seeing? Darren Millard with you, along with the co-founders of InGoal magazine, Kevin Woodley and David Hutchison. It feels a little bit, not Christmassy, but it does have an air of excitement about it, Hutch, being able to look at everybody back in action.
Doesn't it? This is the time of year when everybody is busting out their new gear. We get to see the setups. And as Kevin pointed out, the reporters are back in dressing rooms now. So we're getting way more glimpses than we have in a while. And we get to see some fantastic new stuff. I don't know what you guys are thinking as to some of the favorite setups that you've seen, but I'm a parent, so I sort of got to go with that storyline. And Craig Anderson, I don't know if you saw the report where he was talking about the gear and the fact that he let his, I think it was 11-year-old design the gear for him and just went with that. So somebody asked what he thought of it, and they sort of said, if you don't like it, you're going to have to take it up with my kid who designed it. So I think that is absolutely awesome. It's a set of Bowers, which is all color. It's gold and blue to perfectly fit that Sabres setup. It's big, it's bold. It's a fantastic design, and I love where it came from. So that's my favorite set so far, boys. What are you thinking, Woody?
Well, I gotta add in there that there's a second set that he let his son design. He said that the red and black for the old Buffalo Head jersey they're going to wear this year. His son designed that as well. Said he just turned him loose on the Bauer website. So I'm with you. Like, that's the best story so far from a gear side. I gotta say, I think it's in Darren's backyard and in the locker rooms he's allowed into. That Adin Hill true set with the gold, like, you might blind shooters with that thing. It's I'm not normally a big, like, we know the rules and the white and everything, so that to me was the set that popped the most. I liked Alexander Georgiev, his true set. He went with 3 different Colorado colors on the outer roll. And then one interesting observation was Ilya Samsonov with the Toronto Maple Leafs. Basically, outer roll solid blue, outer roll the blocker solid blue, like, and the note there is just white with a blue outer roll. But the note there is Curtis Sanford coming over from the Vancouver Canucks, where that setup would not be allowed by the goalie coach Ian Clark. Clearly, Curtis isn't going to be as big a hard ass when it comes to rules about his gear, because Samsonov basically provided a perfect frame of the outer edge of his gear, which is why they don't do it here in Vancouver. Interesting too, I saw some comments online about, tracking. That's nothing to do with that. It's all about framing the outer edge of your equipment so the shooter can basically tell where you end and the net begins faster than he might be able to do with the ambiguity of white. Whether we believe it or not, hey, I'm not judging. I'm just saying that's why they do it. And so I thought it was interesting that an Ian Clark disciple, coaching-wise, is letting that slide in Toronto.
Great idea to talk about this today, because we have Chris Driedger on with our feature interview brought to you by Sense Arena. He's not going to be playing out of the gate due to recovering from the injury, but one of the sickest setups last year. And we'll ask him when we get a chance to talk to him whether or not he's going to change that up, tweak it at all, or go back to good old reliable. But just as we get going here, a flag, Woody, like challenge flag. When we mention our favorite setups, and Hutch is awesome with that, you go with like 5 different guys. You can't go around the league.
It's very Woody.
It's kind of what I do, isn't it? You ask me for 1, I give you 5. It's, listen, my ass hurts. I sit on the fence so bloody hard, Darren. It's hard to do this.
I like the Toronto set, Samsonov. I think that was awesome. Because the inner part of the pad is blue, and if there's at all any type of turn, like, it looks like it's bordered with blue,
right? Right.
With the outside roll. So that was pretty cool. And the that Adin Hill set it's not just gold, but it's shiny, reflective gold, like those gold jerseys that Vegas is now going to wear at home. And boy, will that ever look neat with the gold sweater and that gold setup.
It's going to pop 100%.
Yeah. You're not going to lose him at all during the course of the game. Craig Anderson getting his son to design it, like that is just pure hockey that involves the modern part of the game, along with like just being a dad.
Yeah, I think, and that's one of the things that we're so distant from these athletes for the most part. I know it's one of the things that we try and do at InGoal is to give people a glimpse sort of behind the curtain. But I think it's one of the things that allows players to be brought a little bit closer to fans because we can relate to that. And I really enjoy that aspect of it. And it just makes them feel like, regular people, not those athletes sitting up on a pedestal, that they're doing the same sort of thing that we would love to do. Although I wonder how many beer leaguers out there, if they got a chance to have brand new custom design gear, would actually turn the keys over to their kids. I guess
not a chance.
Not many. Not many. So nice job, Andy, for doing that and for showing some real leadership. I love Adin Hill's gear, guys, but that's a bold move coming into Vegas and putting on the gold pads, don't you think?
It's Vegas. It's Vegas.
No, it is, but you're following Fleury. Oh.
They pop, and it's a different shade. Honestly, it's a different shade of gold.
I mean, in line with what I said about Anderson, I think I appreciate him doing that because there's so much tradition and being deferential to people in hockey. It's nice that Hill just rides into town and does the right thing.
Well,
good.
Let me give you an example of deferential, boys, and not wanting to be too bold as much. So this is why I love Adin Hill's, because it's big and it's bold. Do you guys remember Spencer Martin's mask here in Vancouver last year?
Yeah,
yep,
right.
Yeah, exactly.
The chrome mask. Yeah. Guess what we're not going to see now that he's the backup of the Vancouver Canucks? The chrome mask is gone. He's back to a plain paint job. Just a couple. It's a nice setup. It matches his Bauer pads. He's sort of got the V-shaped blue and green stripes, and I love when guys coordinate their helmet design with the design on their pads and their gloves, and he's done that. But the chrome is gone. Just
any reason why?
A little too flashy for the team in terms of, what they want out of their backup goaltender. So, that's why I like Adin Hill. So like, I'll take both sides of it. I get it. But here in Vancouver, they've gone more to that traditional side. And hey, we don't really want you jumping off the screen with that shiny helmet.
Also, I want to mention that a lot of these guys have multiple sets that have either been manufactured or are in the process of being delivered. And there's more to come as we roll those out. Not everybody's got their complete 2022, 2023 kits. I know a couple of guys have like 4 different sets for the year.
Life is hard in
setups, not just sets of gear, but setups for the year.
Life is tough in the NHL, but as much as we're all sitting here jealous they're getting multiple sets, it is interesting to see how many are still waiting for new stuff. Supply chain issues are real, man, and they affect right up to the National Hockey League. It's a busy time of year, and even some of the domestic companies, it's hard to keep up with the demand at this time of year across all levels.
Yeah, Logan Thompson got his just in time for the first practice, literally just in time for the first practice. But good on the True group for being able to deliver Adin Hill's in time, because that was a quick transfer over from San Jose. He's still got the old San Jose mask, but he's got the Vegas colors. We've got Chris Driedger. Can't wait to get into that and the gear with him in just a little bit. The gear segment brought to you by The Hockey Shop, source for sports Surrey, thehockeyshop.com. We're dealing with sizing some chesties as things get dialed in over with Cam and company.
Yeah, just a quick hitter today with Cam, and I'm going to sort of throw a caveat out here. Quick hitter on the podcast, a little longer with the video. I think this is one that you should go and watch. So we actually recorded 2 separate editions, try to keep it somewhat tight here on the podcast, and then a longer sort of version with more sort of illustrative purposes of Cam getting the tape measure out. Managed to keep him away from my inseam, thankfully. There was no sort of Joey Tribbiani episode of Friends going on there. And yeah, it's amazing. Because I asked him, you'll hear me ask him what the number one problem is when fitting a chest protector. What's the most common mistake that people make, whether it's parents buying for their kids or beer leaguers like me. And guess what? I was going to make the same mistake. So let's go over to Cam, find out what that mistake is and how to get yourself measured properly to make sure the chest protector actually fits you in your game and just not just the picture you have in your mind of what that should be. Welcome back to the Hockey Shop, source for sports. I'm down here in Goalie Utopia with Cam Matwiv. We're surrounded by chest protectors, many different models, different brands, and you're wondering what's going on here. Well, the answer is Cam
has a tape measure. Oh, I do. And that means it's time to figure out how to fit a chest protector. But before we get into how to use the tape measure, Cam, what's the most common mistake that goalies make, including me when I came in here earlier, looking for a new chest protector when it comes to picking the right size? Too big. Right off the bat, too big. Referencing potentially what they wore in the past, things like that, assuming that sizing's 1-to-1 in a brand itself, or even switching over in across brands. Everything changes unless you're like 100% getting the exact same unit as you currently have. It is worth it to remeasure, redouble check, and see exactly where you're at. Okay, and the number one thing we see, as you said, too big. I came in here wanting an XL. We started the process with measuring me. Where would be the first thing that you measure to sort of try and figure out what I really need as opposed to what I want? So our measurement is always a bit of a gold standard in terms of for, say, referencing sizing charts online and things like that. So starting even with a wrist-to-wrist measurement is a good starting point for figuring out exactly what you need. To dial that in a little bit more, I like a shoulder to wrist. That way I can do it individually by arm of said unit that you are checking out to kind of cross-reference that and see where we line up. So we want to measure basically from roughly where we'd have our wristwatch on our shoulder all the way up to sort of the edge of the shoulder line, your shoulder cuff essentially, and get that measurement first. That starting point, the wristwatch is a good guideline. Can we adjust that a little bit if we know we've got a goalie that wants to wear it higher up his arm or maybe further into his glove? Can we adjust where we start that measurement? So my favorite units to fit off the wall, brand dependent, obviously, are going to be ones with adjustable arms. That does give us that leeway to have, potentially a half inch, full inch, even upwards of 3 inches in terms of difference in terms of how that arm's going to fit. Being able to pull that up and help to dial that in. It also gives you at home some leeway. It's like, okay, did I measure 100% correctly? Am I a little bit off? Great. I made a slight mistake. No problem at all. We have that adjustment ability. Okay. So, you can always find it online which ones have that. At this point, most of them do. Correct. But there might still be some older models and stuff that don't have that adjustment. I'm trying to think of brands. Is there anybody that doesn't have adjustable arms still? Has Vaughn moved to adjustable arms as well? Vaughn has an arm adjustment system. Basically everybody. The one that has changed a little bit is Warrior, especially in their pro units. They're a bit more stock laced in. They do require a little bit more dialing in per se. But there is still a level of adjustability there as well. So, okay. So within that adjustability, you still want to measure the arm. You want to make sure that matches. Obviously, how the elbow fits in the elbow pad is important, both in terms of protection, because if you were to fall down and hit your elbow on the ice, you want to make sure it's in the pad, but also how that sort of, that elbow flex works properly. If the arm's too long, it'll push it into the shoulder, your armpit, or it can push it into the glove. You got to make sure that fits. Other measurements, well, they call it chest and arms. So we covered the arm. Now we got to talk about the chest. How do we measure to make sure the body fits? So I usually like starting point collarbone down to what we would consider about belt line, but we're talking about, waist in terms of where that chest is going to fall down or all line up on your body itself. So basically when you talk about collarbone, we're talking like, not like off to the side, but right in the middle, sort of like the top of the sternum, right below for guys, the Adam's apple. Correct. All the way down to basically if you're wearing pants, a belt buckle. Obviously not if I'm wearing pants because I pull them up like a 90-year-old man, but where most normal people wear pants, that's right down to the belt buckle. Yes. And now what is going to also come into that factor of play? Do you like to wear your chest untucked, tucked in? How you wear it, how tight you are on it against your body. These are all some factors that are going to come into place. So like the measurement's great. It's a great starting point, but it isn't necessarily the be all end all depending on how personal preference comes into play. So we measured me at 20 inches in terms of from same end, the arms, just a coincidence. I don't know, maybe there's anatomics there that from the belt buckle to that sort of top of that chest bone below the Adam's apple's 20 inches, the arms are 20 inches. If I'm looking at a chest protector online and I see that measurement sort of the chest portion unit is only 19, I know unless I'm tucking that in, I'm going to be in trouble. That could be a little, short. Starting to have a bit of a gap. So some chest gaps are not good. As a guy who lost an appendix to a slap shot because of a gap, gaps are not good. You hit it here, folks. Make sure your belly's protected. A lot of the chest nowadays too as well are going to have different belly extenders. That does come into factor in terms of for the measurement and how that does line up. All of them are Velcroed on, are removable. Some bellies even have a protection that can fold in and kind of disappear. The CCM axis too will fold in if you want it shorter. Correct. Yeah. So again, there is that leeway room. So yeah, you might come out at a 19 measurement for the chest, But in theory, I might be able to cover that extra inch by, again, adjustments or added features to the chest itself. But the key is knowing. The key is knowing what your measurement is, how long that chest measures, and whether you have those options. If they've got questions for you about that fitting process, about how they measure it, you suggest using basically a garment type tape measure, something that's soft, because the rigid ones may not. Have someone help you out with this if you can. Yeah, tough to measure yourself. Any other questions? They want to get a hold of you, make sure they're buying the right size. Not just me. Anybody down here will be able to help you out. Of course, where can they get you? 604-589-8299. And a little slower for the 1-800? 1-800-566-7890. Or if you got any other questions, check them out at thehockeyshop.com. That might be a little easier to remember than all the numbers. And don't forget, folks, this is the audio version. You can check out a complete video where Cam actually rolls that tape measure out. We keep away from my in-scene, but we have a good time with the tape measure as we're getting ready to fit Kevin for a chest protector. Hey, guess what, folks? I wasn't the size I wanted. Good lesson from Cam and his crew here at the Hockey Shop. That's why we shop here. That's why you should too. The Hockey Shop, thehockeyshop.com. Make sure you get the chest that's right for you and the one that fits you properly. Give you one more Hockey Shop. The Hockey Shop, thehockeyshop.com.
Taylor tape. You don't hear that every day. Like Howie's tape. I love Howie's tape. But Taylor tape is a new spin on everything. Boy, dialing in that chesty it's integral to making that thing work.
Yeah, and I gotta say, like no exaggeration. Like I literally went in there thinking, oh, what's the difference between a large and an XL? I can just do an XL. I'll look a little bit bigger, have a little bit more room to move when it breaks in. And just again, the length of the arms, we're doing things like pushing the bicep protector plate up into the armpit in a way that was clearly going to be uncomfortable over time. The range of motion wasn't the same. So it really is important to get measured properly and not just chase the biggest sizes out there. We've got a special edition chest protector that'll be up next week with Cam in our Hockey Shop gear segment, a Source for Sports exclusive, a Hockey Shop exclusive with a lot of pro beef protection and a certain Bauer model. You can actually, if you're adventurous, go check it out on the website. Look under the Bauer mock model and look for a little Hockey Shop spec, but we'll get into that more next week. Hopefully there'll be some left after I just teased it. And that's a good reminder that whether it's, off the rack, it's custom orders, and you can do a lot of custom. We talk about the sizing. You do a lot of custom orders with chest protectors these days, whether it's sizes, extra protection, or even colorways and custom graphics through Bauer. Make sure you check out Cam and his crew at the Hockey Shop Source for Sports, thehockeyshop.com. They still got the sale on, the Back to Hockey sale, so there's some great prices on older models. They've got everything that's new still coming in. We'll have the Bauer Optic 3 in shortly. We'll be talking about that. So as the new stuff comes in still and the old stuff goes on sale, whatever you need, if you want to get it fit right, fit for you, fit for your game, make sure you check them out at the Hockey Shop in Surrey, soon to be Langley. They're moving soon, but for now, the Hockey Shop in Surrey and thehockeyshop.com.
They do set the bar for service and then product availability.
Yeah, it's funny. I was in there the other day, and as we wrapped up our filming, they opened the store, and there was a kid down there with his mom looking for a mask, and he came in there looking for a specific model. And just the reality was that model wasn't going to fit him. And because it wasn't going to fit him, they had all the sizes for him to try, but because it didn't fit his shape of head properly, it wasn't going to protect him. Right. And so to watch Cam sort of go through that process with both the kid and the mom and get him in something that fit properly, that he was comfortable with, that he liked the look of, that he felt good about, right? Look good, feel good, play good, but that both him and the mom knew as he was moving up to a level where the shots were going to, reach a point where you could end up with a tooth missing like me. You want to have that right fit, that right protection. And sort of just every time I'm in there when something like that happens, hey, Cam could have sent that kid out there with the most expensive model because that's what he wanted. And that's what the parents were willing to buy. What he ended up getting is going to actually protect him more. And it wasn't quite as expensive as the one he was looking for. So, they don't just chase the biggest sale at the Hockey Shop. They really do try and outfit you for something that's going to protect you, something that's going to fit you, your size, your style, your game, and where you're at in the game of hockey.
From the GOAT in selection and service to raising the bar on the topic of goaltending instruction, and that's Warren Strelo. And if you don't know him, he was sort of the pioneer when it comes to mainstream instruction and goaltending tutoring. Way back when, Washington Capitals, right? Now he's going to be receiving the Lester Patrick Award posthumously. Oh, awesome honor.
Yeah, and like you said, probably a little late, frankly, to be honest with you. Like, probably should have been recognized a while ago. And I know even here at InGoal, like we've been pumping pretty hard, like that we need to get a goalie coach in the Hall of Fame. And Francois Allaire has always made sense because of his impact on the game in Quebec and the way the game was played. I took a good look at it and was reminded when they announced that Warren would be receiving the Lester Patrick Award posthumously. The achievements, like he was the first, right? Like he was 83. I think he was actually ahead of Francois Allaire in terms of the first goalie coach in the NHL who didn't play at a high level. Like he was ahead by a couple of years. Massive impact on the game in the United States. Miracle on Ice. He was the goalie coach for Herb Brooks' team there. There's just so much that he did. The USA Hockey names their goalie, their annual goalie camp after. It's the Warren Strelo program, the Warren Strelo camp. He's just had a massive impact. You talk to the guys around San Jose that worked under him. Seamus Kotick of the Buffalo Sabres, who's done stuff with us at InGoalMag.com, one of his mentors because he started in the San Jose organization. Like he touched so many people, and his impact is still being felt at all levels, especially in the United States. And so it was good to see that recognized. And like I said, like I'll bang this drum again. We're a couple months ahead of Hall of Fame inductions. I'm hoping Roberto does it too when he's inducted. It's time we got a goalie coach in there. It's time we added to that list. I think Francois Allaire and Warren Strelo would be two ideal candidates to be in first.
My buddy Doug McLean was with the Washington Capitals way back when, and he had a chance to work with Warren Strelo, and it was awesome. The stories going back and forth because it was pioneering at that point. You weren't used to having a goaltending coach as a hockey coach, so different things how they accepted that kind of influence, and then his impact on the San Jose Sharks organization, Hutch, New Jersey too, right?
Yeah, for 1 year.
So there's coast to coast Warren Strelo, and some of the drills and just the idea to be so open to different goalies and coaches would kind of give a sideways glance at times, going, "What are we doing here? What is this guy doing?" But just he did have an idea on drills that we use today that back then were unexpected.
Well, and sort of thinking about the position scientifically and coming at it from more than just a feel perspective. Like sort of in a lot of ways, him and Allaire right around that same time, sort of like the godfathers of modern goaltending coach, like how we approach the position from a coaching perspective now. A lot of that started then because nobody else was doing it before they brought it onto the scene. And Strelo was the first, like you said, in the NHL to sort of start to think that way and sort of have it be accepted by mainstream NHL coaches and NHL organizations that, hey, the position is kind of different. Maybe we need to have a different approach to it.
He deserved to see it, to deserve to revel in the accolades that are coming towards him right now, like we are talking about. Steve Briere is a goaltending coach with the Seattle Kraken. He has a new position there and a new opportunity to work with the likes of Chris Driedger, but not for a while full time. He is our Sensorina VR feature interview. Before we get to that, what's happening over at Sensorina, Hutch?
Sensorina now has a concussion diagnostic test built in, and this is a great time of year to be doing that, obviously, because the idea with concussion testing, guys, is that you do a baseline test to see where you are. A lot of teams at higher levels now actually put their players through this with an outside agency, but a lot of hockey players don't have access to this testing. So you do a baseline test to see where your reactions are, where your memory is, and things like that. Then should you sustain some sort of an injury later in the season, you can go back and you can test yourself again and compare where you stand compared to your baseline to see if things really are right or not, and when you might be safe to return to play. Now, not suggesting that Sensorina is at all a replacement for working with a medical doctor and a proper team of people to support a recovery, but in terms of giving parents something that they can lean on at home, that they can check at home to support their kids' health in hockey. I think it's a really nice addition to Sense Arena. And of course, like I said, beginning of season right now, great time to get in there and give it a go. So if you are interested in trying Sense Arena, if you're interested in giving the concussion testing a go, as well as all the other incredible drills and opportunities that are available from this groundbreaking training aid, do go to sensearena.com and grab yourself an annual membership. If you use the code IGM50, like InGoal Mag 50, you'll get a discount on top of the great deals that they might have going at the time as well. So
that's
give it a go, guys.
Outstanding. I will be doing that this afternoon. Just anybody can suffer a concussion, and if you have got access to this, get on it.
Yeah, great idea.
Yeah, I wish we had this a few years ago. I'd like to see where my baseline has dropped over the past decade after a few of these hits.
One of the kids from one of the teams I was working with a couple of years ago, they did some baseline testing at the beginning, and one of them was they asked them to say all the months in order backwards. The kid looked at me and said, I don't know them forwards. How am I supposed to do them backwards?
That's awesome. That's outstanding. Chris Driedger is the subject of our feature interview this week.
Yeah, a chance to catch up with Chris. Obviously not as busy as the rest of the Seattle Kraken as they head into their second season. So thought it'd be a good opportunity. You know, I'd heard him talk a little bit about last year. Seattle was in here in Vancouver late in the season, and we were back, not in the rooms, but back having one-on-one conversations around the rink. And so I got a chance to catch up with him late last year, informally, just sort of, shooting the breeze and catching up. And there was a lot there, a lot of lessons learned through a difficult season for him. Obviously, this was before the devastating knee injury. I remember watching that gold medal game and watching him make that save and then seeing him come up and be like not good. But as much as we start off talking about his recovery process and when he'll be back, it's when we sort of get into those lessons. And there's some really valuable advice here, especially about how we manage our pregame warm-up and all those routines that we as goalies tend to get into and sometimes add. Every year we'll add something new, and sometimes they can get a little unruly. Chris worked with a sports psychologist this year and started to sort of dial some of that back and found that the results were incredible. And the way he approached really thinking through what he was doing and trying to identify the purpose in each element in terms of what to keep and what to get rid of. Well, let's just listen to Chris. I think there's some great advice that a lot of goalies could benefit from.
There is a little bit of everything in this feature interview brought to you by Sense Arena VR.
Really happy to welcome back to the InGoal Radio podcast, Chris Driedger. I wish under better circumstances, Chris. I think the entire goalie union did a little cringe when they watched the World Championship and the gold medal game. But we wanted to catch up with you, catch up on the rehab, catch up on last year. I mean, I guess the first thing is how are things feeling now? How is that rehab process going coming off the ACL tear?
Yeah, it was definitely a bummer, especially, I was feeling pretty good in that World Championship tournament and in the gold medal game. So it was obviously an unfortunate outcome, but I'm feeling good right now. I'm feeling pretty mobile, and I'm cruising along in my recovery. So feeling great, but it is quite a long process. Get that ligament feeling, well, not feeling, it just needs time to strengthen up and get to a point where it's able to be put in those awkward goalie positions like the reverse DH, for instance, or just butterfly in general. So a couple months away from that, but I'm feeling good. Other than that, I mean, my knee feels good. I feel like I have a lot of strength that's come back in the last few months, and I've been running on the treadmill a little bit, so I'm getting around pretty good. So that's positive. It's just gotta wait it out and let the ligament heal. So I'm just kind of, taking it day by day.
It's got to be tough, especially as the season gets going. Like, do you think you'll get a chance to get on the ice and just skate ahead of butterfly? Like, is there a process by which you could get out there and do T-pushes and shuffles and move around as long as you don't drop, or is it going to be wait till it's ready for everything?
No, I think you're on the right track with that. I think the first step is just get out there in a tracksuit and skate around a little bit, and then that might even be for like a week or pushes and, slowly move into the butterfly, start ramping it up from there. But we're still a little ways away from that. I think we're going to reevaluate the whole skating thing in maybe a month, 3-4 weeks from now, and hopefully kind of start slow and ease into it and get me back into shape. But we still got a little ways before that.
Okay, so patience is a big part of goaltending. When we're on the ice, off the release, not going early on passes, tracking plays, all those things. How tough is it to be patient right now, going through the process and going through the rehab? Because we see a lot of hip surgeries. We've seen MCL injuries, but ACL is a rare one. And as you said, I've been through it myself once. It just takes time.
Yeah, I think we looked it up actually, and I could be wrong, but I think they found 3 goalies before me in the last 25 years in the NHL that had torn their ACL. So it was pretty rare. But yeah, I guess it just it was an unlucky situation. But yeah, just kind of a unique injury, and one of those things where you need to be 100% before you come back. In different sports like football, for example, they can kind of get a little risky and come back early and just put a big brace on and maybe come back in 4 or 5 months. But as a goaltender, I mean, my doctors are saying, it's just that's not a smart way to do it with the positions that I get into with the knee. So it's going to be a bit of a longer haul. So, and they say, I guess, with the earlier comebacks, it's just a direct correlation to higher re-injury. So you really want to take care of it and take the time. It doesn't really matter how great rehab is going. You just need to log the hours, or log the days, I should say, months of the ligament getting time to heal. And that's kind of the only way you can really get it in a point where you're pretty confident in the ligament strength.
Well, and I guess too, those braces you talk about, I've got one buried in the garage for the odd time where I get asked to go play a little basketball. It's the only one where, it's from the middle of the shin to the middle of the thigh, those giant ACL braces. I think Olaf Kolzig might be the only guy I remember actually trying to play goal in one of those. Is that something you have to consider, or are you just going to give it enough time that you don't even have to worry about a brace, that the knee will be fine on its own because you've gone through this process so long?
Yeah, we talked about that a little bit. We're not quite there yet, but we're thinking I'm going to wear some sort of a brace, but they're kind of getting pretty creative, these companies making braces nowadays. There's some that are worked into your Under Armour clothing, so they have them that are a little bit more streamlined and lightweight, and maybe would be, possible to do a butterfly in. I don't know how Oli was doing a butterfly in one of those braces. I wore one of those after surgery. There's no chance I'm putting that on under pads. That'd be ugly. But
oh yeah, I mean there's no rotation that you wouldn't be able to sort of rotate your ankle at all. Like I said, I've had one for years. I've never worn it as a goalie, and I'm with you. I don't know how Oli did it because it seems almost impossible to sort of get your ankle down to the ice if it's locked in that thing.
Yeah, absolutely. So no, we're gonna try and look at some other solutions, but it would be nice to wear maybe something under there just to have a little peace of mind. But we'll cross those bridges when we get there.
And it sounds like you're in good hands in terms of them looking after you medically and with some different options there. What about mindset? How are you handling this mentally? We've talked about last year a little bit towards the end of the year. You and I just at the rink a little bit about some of the adjustments you made as the year went on. As you said, you were playing so well at the World Championship. So in one way, I guess it must be more frustrating, but at the same time, it had to feel good to sort of get there at the end of the season and feel good about your game. How have you handled having to sort of have this break from a mental standpoint?
Yeah, I mean, I've been talking to we have a new goalie coach, Steve Briere, who's in Toronto for the last 7 years.
We know him well. Yep.
Yeah, and he's great. He just said to me, he's like, hey man, I've got the video for you, but my recommendation is you got this opportunity where you're, hurt, take a break, man. Just chill out and, just enjoy the time off because, being in this league can be, pretty.
It's a grind.
It's a grind. Yeah, absolutely. So I kind of wasn't really thinking. I was kind of itching to get back, and he kind of took me and was like, "Hey, maybe you should just, use this as a mental break, and then, we've got tons of time before I'm going to be in game shape, so we can kind of ramp that up closer to, when I'm starting to get back on the ice, we can kind of get back into it and just take it as a mental, a couple of months to recover and just, think about some other things and just come back refreshed." So, but to your point, you're asking about how I was feeling, and it was definitely nice, especially after the season we had in Seattle, which didn't really go, according to plan. It's nice to go in there and in Helsinki and play well and feel good about my game. So I'm trying to see the positives of the situation and just kind of, when I come back, think about how I was feeling in those moments and get back to my game and back to the things that make me successful.
Now, did those things shift at all for you this year, Chris? Like, you come to a new organization, as you said, maybe not the season that anyone had in mind there. In terms of what was going on in front of you as well. How did you have to make adjustments in your game? Were there lessons you learned about the way you were managing things that, maybe there's some young kids listening right now. They're about to start on a new team, and maybe it doesn't start as well as they hoped, or maybe it doesn't go as well as their past years had. How you managed it? Did you have to avoid chasing changes in your game, or how did you kind of approach that?
Yeah, well, I think the season kind of started off. I might have, typically I'd had some pretty solid starts to seasons. I'd come in, I'd have a good camp, and just kind of grind from there, and things would go well from the start. This past season kind of went the opposite for me. I kind of had a tough preseason. I think my full preseason game I had was against the Oilers full squad, and we played half of our team, and we just got smoked. I think McDavid had like 5 points or something, and it was just like, not a great situation. So it was just a bit of a learning curve for me. It kind of knocked me off my confidence a little, early, and I was just kind of fighting to get it back. So, that can kind of snowball when things aren't going well as a team, and wins are hard to come by. So I think it was a great learning experience just to kind of sit back and not get so worked up in the wins and losses and the numbers and all that, and just play your game and feel good. So a lot of good lessons out of last season. Great quote that Nicky Lauda has, the race car driver, and he talks about how winning's great, but you always learn more from losing. So it's kind of one of those seasons for all of us, I think. But that's kind of what I took out of it. So moving forward, I think we're going to have a much better team this year. We made some great moves in the off season. Got a lot of players that are going to help the squad, and I think everyone is kind of a little bit. Everyone's egos are hurt from last season, so I don't think anyone's going to be taking things lightly. It's going to be all business, and hopefully there's a new Kraken squad with a little bit more, more jam, and we win some more games this year.
When you talk about that start and confidence, one of the things that can happen when a season doesn't go the way we want it, team wise, and the impact it has on goaltenders is there can be a tendency to sort of feel like you need to change things. And sometimes it's, for some guys, maybe something does need to change. But some guys, they end up chasing changes and like, I got to change this, I got to change that, versus recognizing the anchors of their game and sort of going back to those. Were there any moments at different times in the season where you were caught in that balance, and which way did you go, or what were those anchors that you sort of went back to as the season went on? Because you finished strong, and like you said, the World Championships, were there things in your game that you used as anchor points, or did you find yourself looking for different options as things went on, and how did you approach that?
Yeah, that's a great question and well put. I think when I came into the season, I focused on playing the exact same way that I was playing in Florida, and just doing things that I had always done the same way. And, that might have, and I had the confidence that, I'd had a couple of good years and had a lot of confidence, and it sort of maybe allowed me to take my foot off the gas a little bit. And I think maybe, some complacency snuck in, and it was just amplified by being on a team that you've really got to be sharp. I mean, obviously we play at all times, but if you're on a losing team, things can get out of hand pretty quick. So it was just a balance of getting that complacency out of my game, getting back to what I do best, which is working hard, battling in practice, and then taking that into games and just playing free and in the moment and enjoying myself. So it was a bit of a struggle, not winning too many games and trying to stay confident and play freely. It was a lot easier. We had a pretty good team in Florida. I remember I won one game against the Leafs. I played terrible. I think we won 8-5. But you win the game, you're like, let's forget about that one and come back and have a great next game, which I did. But you didn't really have that those kind of luxuries last season. So it was a bit of a mindset adjustment, and a lot of lessons learned.
I was just going to say margin for error too. I mean, not just, I won't ask you to say it, but I have the metrics in front of me. Some of the proprietary analytics would tell you that it was a tough environment for goalies in Seattle last year. But the flip side of the coin is there wasn't a lot of offense as well. I ask guys this all the time. What's tougher, playing behind a team where it's a little loose defensively, or playing when you don't think you have a margin for error? Because, I think John Gibson in Anaheim, talked to Ryan Miller about this as well when they were down there. You go into a game thinking one goal is one too many. That's a tough way to play sometimes.
Yeah, and it's hard to have that mindset not creep in, but it definitely does, right? So it just kind of elevates your stress levels, which is not how I play my best hockey, and I don't think, many guys play their best hockey when they're, kind of, the term for a player is gripping your stick too hard. I don't mean to make something up for the goalie term, but if you're thinking about it too much, and you're saying, well, if I let one back goal in, we're losing, that's not conducive to good play. So, I use the term kind of playing freely, and that's kind of what, when I was playing well and I was feeling like myself, I'm playing free and I'm not worried about, the small margin for error, but it is difficult. So, but that's definitely one area that kind of got exposed, for Ruby and I. I mean, we've had conversations about this in depth, how it's grueling mentally to, not be able to, let in even like a mediocre goal, maybe you should have had that one, maybe not, we'll give it to them this year. It was like none of that. If we had that, we were, one of those go in and, there's a pretty good chance we're losing. So, it was, I think it's going to benefit us in the long term for sure, because we just need to not think like that. For me personally, you just got to say, after every goal, just release it. Just play. Don't think about those external factors. So easy to say, harder to do in practice, but you got to go through it sometimes in order to get better at dealing with those situations.
Well, there's a goalie coach up here who always says, and he used to talk about gripping the stick, but tension is the enemy of goaltending. And if you're out there playing tense, it's, like you talk about playing freely, hard to do if you're tensed up and thinking about all those things.
Exactly.
Okay, I wanted to ask you real quick too. I read a story, I heard an interview where you were talking, because when we had you on last time, you got so in depth with us about your preparation and how your preparation had changed and all the different things that you did to get ready for a practice or a game. But I heard that maybe you'd altered that. Maybe you'd had to take some things out and simplify some things. Can you walk us through? Because we see that a lot. And that's just one thing we're guilty of at InGoal. We always we always look for all the new things that goalies are doing, but we throw so much of that stuff at these young goalies. If they were to try and do them all, they'd be exhausted before the puck ever drops. It sounds like maybe you had to get rid of a few things or simplify your process pregame. Can you share that with us?
Yeah. Well, so one of the things I did, I remember we were playing a game against the Senators, and it was just a gross game. We were down 3-0, and I think halfway through the second, and I'm like, peak demoralization at this point. I'm like, we're losing. Ottawa was worse than us. They were like one of the teams that was lower than in the standings than us, and we're down 3-0 halfway through the second, and somehow we end up tying it up late in the third, to make it 3-3, and then so I'm like, oh, maybe we have a chance, and then only to lose in overtime, and I was like, okay, like we gotta. I wasn't happy with my performance at all. Just kind of like one of those like rock bottom kind of experiences, and so I was like, okay, something's got to change here. I'm not myself. I'm not playing well, so I reached out. Former teammate of mine, I remember him talking to a sports psychologist. And so I reached out to him, got her information, and so we started talking, working together a little bit. And she just put things into perspective of like what you said, just kind of simplifying, some different things and just taking a little bit more thought into my pregame and what's working, what's not working, and just like talking through it with her and my preparation and how was I feeling and what was I feeling in these certain situations and how can we change that and what's productive, what's not. And just talking it through with someone was so beneficial. I think I went on like a 4-game, I don't know if it was a winning streak, a performance of stopping more than every 12 shots kind of thing. Playing really, really good hockey as soon as I started talking to her and was really happy with my game kind of after that. But it's funny how your routine is something that you have a lot of confidence in, but sometimes if it's not working, you just have to take a look at it and tweak some things and not completely throw it in the trash and rebuild it from scratch, but maybe make some alterations and that's kind of what I did and having a little bit of novelty kind of made me think a little bit more focused. It wasn't just like blind routine for me. I was kind of like, okay, this is going to make me a little bit more focused. I like this. I feel more prepared. And then that extra sense of confidence, I think, translated into my next couple of performances there. So that's something that I did, and I'm glad I did. And, I'm probably going to continue to work with her as soon as I start playing again.
That's interesting. I think we can get to a point as goalies where we do things for a long time and we just keep doing them because we've always done them. It sounds like you really had to have a think through with her what you did and why you did each piece and maybe streamlined it that way. I bet you there's a lot of goalies out there right now that be like, yeah, I've just always done this and this is what I do, as opposed to, okay, why do I do this piece?
Yeah, I think it was really helpful for me. And I do think through a lot of my processes, but initially, but it's good to go back to the drawing board, especially when you're not feeling like yourself.
Right.
Because the whole point of your routine is to get you to feel good, right? If you go into the games and you're not feeling good, then obviously something needs to be tweaked. So that's what we did, and I did end up getting to the point where I felt free, felt loose, felt like myself. I could just go out there and play, and that's when I ended up having being back to my usual self and back feeling like the goalie that I'm capable of being.
Now, obviously, it's personal, but is there anyone that you kept or threw away that you could share?
So this is like 7 or 8 months ago now, so I'm trying to remember the details. I actually went through and wrote a bunch of notes on this, so I need to reopen my notebooks. But I do remember
that's a process that helps too, like just journaling and putting it down on paper. We've talked to a lot of goalies that have added that in the last couple of years because then they remember the sense of purpose that each sort of piece has.
Yeah, I am terrible at writing stuff down, but I really try to improve at it. But it is something that I've started more lately. When something that I'm doing I know is really helping me, I'll write it down. If I'm really reading a really good book that's like opening my mind to different ideas that I hadn't thought about, I'll take notes about it. Or in this situation, talking with my psychologist, she was unbelievable. So we would write things down, and she gave me like a little sheet and really just things in different categories. But one of the things to your question that I took out was I'm a big two-touch player before the game, and I was noticing sometimes, and I love playing it, but I was noticing sometimes if I played a little too much, I would, it would tire me out mentally if I went over a certain point. So I kind of would start just setting a little timer for myself on my Apple Watch and be like, okay, you're playing this, for this long, and then that's it. And then you're going to go and you're going to focus up and save your energy for the game. And that was just a small tweak that made me feel great, because sometimes I would get carried away and too Josh, I'd be playing well and, winning a couple games, and then all of a sudden you're like playing until you got to get warmed up. And it just, I would notice after like getting my gear on, like, oh, I'm kind of mentally a bit out of it. So not the mental state that I'm looking for, putting my gear on, going out warm up. So that was one of the tweets that I recall making. And then there's some other mental ones that just about thought processes, but they're kind of on the tip of my tongue. But I would need to open my notebook to really remember exactly what we tweeted.
Well, you know what? I tell you what, that's for another day when you're back on the ice and traveling and we see you up in here in Vancouver. I might hold you to bring in that notebook so we can get a few. But I think that just that advice alone, Chris, is fantastic for people to, young goalies out there that develop these routines. And sometimes, they get long and intricate, and hey, like, have a thought. Why are we doing this? Like, is there a reason here? Are there negatives that you're experiencing? I think there's tons of positives there. I'm going to let you go, but I got to ask one more. With all this extra time that you've got before you get back on the ice, is there is there any way you can improve on last year's set? Like, have you got something in mind for best setup in the league? Because I know Hellberg kind of raised the bar with the Bryans there, but your set last year might have been one of the prettiest we've seen in a long time, and the perfect team theme. Have you thought about gear this year? All the gearheads want to know.
Well, I'm going to disappoint you. I'm as of now, I'm sticking with the same stuff. So,
hey, if it looks that good, I'd stick with it.
Yeah, I do like using the same stuff for a couple seasons in a row. Then you kind of have a look, that's yours.
Iconic.
But at some point, I will, put my head together with the designer over at Vaughn, and we'll get something else cooked up. But I think for now, we have a design that I'm happy with the Kraken, and I think we're going to stick with that for now.
Hey, like I said, when it looks that good, why would you switch it up? It was a heck of a setup. So, and hey, listen, like, iconic, right? Like the old days, like Felix Potvin looked the same, right? So why not build a brand?
Yeah. Oh, I appreciate that. No, I like it. It's a ton of fun working and creating your own design. So I had a blast doing it. I'm lucky to be able to do that. So it's definitely one of the perks of the goaltending position. Probably my favorite part of that, and the helmet. I mean, you just can't beat it.
Yeah, see, that's why we all love the position, and we love guys that love it for the same reasons. Chris, I really appreciate you taking the time to talk to us at InGoal Magazine and InGoal Radio Podcast today. All the best, and continue with the rehab. I apologize for interrupting the mental break before Briere starts pumping you full of videos. I've brought you back into the goalie world when you're supposed to be disengaging. But our audience loves hearing from you.
Yeah, no, it's good to get back in. Great chatting with you, Kevin. As always, I'm sure I'll see you soon.
I just love when you guys catch up with him. He's just a fun guy to listen to. It can go any different direction at any time with Chris.
He's a really thoughtful guy. And so, remember our first interview with him? Like, that was an hour. I promised him it wouldn't be a life story one this time. But we got into it maybe a little longer than he had planned. He was, as you can hear, he was in the car. After he did all his rehab work, him and his fiance were on their way to enjoy a nice weekend sort of away from the rink. And I interrupted that. So, and I think I was planning on like 20 minutes. We got near 30. I think maybe he had to get off the line because he was almost at the border and had to answer some questions. So, but it can just go anywhere, like you said. And no matter where you go with Chris, he's got insightful answers. So look forward to him getting back on the ice. And look forward to catching up with him at the rink so we can run back some pro reads on his season last year.
I'd love that, getting to Canadian Customs at the border crossing, and the agent says, purpose of your visit, going for away for weekend. Can you get off the phone, sir? No, Kev's just got one more. I can't.
Well, I was just thinking, can you imagine if Kevin worked as a border agent?
Just one more?
Yeah. Just one more question, sir. Just one more question.
The lineup at the border crossing.
Why are there only 5 cars in every line except this one has 60?
Yeah, exactly. The agent would just wave him through if he knew Kevin was on the phone with just one more. He'd just go. You'll still be on the phone when you come back, so we'll be able
That's
to.
right.
The Americans will be able to catch up with you. I liked what he said about maintaining the kit though, and the look for multiple years. I love that idea.
Iconic, baby. Get a little Felix Potvin going in there. A little, like this is Chris Driedger, Henrik Lundqvist with his gear. I love it. I love that idea.
Hutch, like sticking with something, and it's what Vasilevsky said about his mask, that he wants to have that consistent look. That's 2 weeks in a row that we've heard that.
It's true. I guess there's a couple of different, looks at that. I love the concept, and Felix was a guy I'd love to watch play. I have a set of Cohos that look just like his here at the house. So I do love the iconic look. At the same time, just like we were talking before about beer leaguers wouldn't let their kids design their gear, I don't know if I'd give up that opportunity to have something new every season. What can I come up with this year? How can I top last year? So yeah, I think there's something for everybody out there, and what a time we live in that we have these opportunities. I mean, when those looks came, I know they weren't just following the pattern of like the stock design on graphics when Felix did this, but so many guys were following stock designs. The opportunity to do that today, and just the world's your oyster from a design perspective, is just we're very lucky to be around right now and enjoying this gear.
And I mentioned Magnus Hellberg in the interview with Chris, and we didn't mention him at the start of this when we were talking about the best setups. Like, we all saw that setup in the summer when Brian's sort of debuted it on their Instagram account, sort of just pictures of the gear. Seeing it on the ice in action, if you haven't yet, make sure you go online and find pictures of Magnus Hellberg in his Seattle Kraken gear. It is unbelievable. Much like when he went to Detroit at the end of last season, knocked that out of the park.
Pops, right? Just, it's simple, but it's intricate. It is the best way to describe it.
And you know what it is, even if you're sitting in the last row in the upper deck.
Yeah, it's like we talk about with mask designs, right? Big and bold or intricate. That one strikes a really nice balance.
Awesome stuff. Thanks to Chris Driedger for being our feature interview, brought to you by Sensorina VR. What's going on at InGoal right now, Hutch?
There's lots of great stuff up there, and we hope everybody will hop on over, as we say all the time. If you are looking for a way to help your young goaltender become a better goaltender and enjoy more about the game, head over to InGoal and become an annual member. It's like $36 American. It's $50 Canadian. It's an incredible deal for some great training, and there's some great stuff up there today. James Reimer and Thomas Spear. Thomas Spear is the new goaltending coach for the San Jose Sharks. They go through a drill that we got to observe up at Net 360. Just a little tip there for improving your rotation in your warm-up skating drills. Do encourage people to check that out. From pro read perspective, one that we would all love to know. What is it like to face Ovi's one-timer? Freddie Anderson breaks that down for us, and some of the things he does to try and make a save. And then we continue, I guess, finish up the series with Richard Bachman and my son going over some rush attacks and some post-entry options. There's 4 different articles in that series, about an hour of video, so encourage people to go check that out. There's just something for everybody, and I hope you enjoy it.
Yeah, you know what? Something for everybody. I got this note from a goalie coach. I didn't ask him for permission to use his name, so I'll hold off on that. But he coaches Junior A. So, high level, a bunch of kids going off to the NCAA after working with him, works with a number of guys up in here in BC, up in the interior. And we were just sort of going back and forth about the value. There's been a lot of talk around about, how expensive goalie coaching can be and how tough it is. The value that we're able to bring at InGoalMag.com through our relationships with places like Net360, which is an invitation agency camp. But we are able to bring all that instruction with NHL goalies and NHL goalie coaches. And so, his note to me was, one of the biggest parts of my development plan is getting anyone and everyone to sign up for InGoal. greatest goalie resource in the world. I tell them to watch a pro read every day. It's the best way to build goalie IQ. So, hey, patting ourselves on the back for sure, but that's what a junior A goalie coach feels, and a guy who does a lot of privates with high-end goalie feels about InGoal Mag. $50 a year, it's like less than a skate sharpening card. So, Canadian too. So as Hutch said, it's practically free in the US. So make sure you check it out, ingoalmag.com, and we'll, now the beauty now is we can start having a little fun. Now I'm back in the rink, Darren, but I'm not back in the room. The Canucks have renovations going on here that's going to keep the media out of the locker room probably until they get back from their first road trip. So kind of sucks because I'm watching all these videos of guys in the room showing off their gear. But this is what we're going to be doing once we are back in the room. Like, yeah, it's great to have a shot of the gear, but we're going to be asking the goalies, hey, UC Saros, why do you got a batting glove under your catching glove? So these are some of the things we've done in the past that we'll start bringing to you, for the first time in a couple of years because of the pandemic and not being allowed to be in the locker room. So I cannot wait to get back in there with NHL goalies and bring that content to our readers at ingoalmag.com.
I have a favor to ask of everybody. If you're listening to this on your favorite podcast app, I would really appreciate it if you would go in there, rate the InGoal Radio podcast, and if you can, leave a comment as well. Like one I noticed this week. It was left on the 15th, and I don't know the name. The user handle is JenMX, and it's a goalie parent. So addictive, so good, and fortunately not unhealthy. As a mom of a 14-year-old competitive goalie, I have to stay up to speed on goalie speak. There's Darren's dictionary coming into this, I guess. Goalie equipment, goalie goals, that list is endless. I did not grow up in Canada, and I never played hockey, so this podcast is my go-to. Always great interviews, equipment reviews, and insider info. Never disappoints. Jen, thank you so much for leaving that comment, and would really appreciate it if a few other people who enjoy the podcast would hop in there and share their thoughts too.
What a testimonial. How great is that?
I love it. Yes.
Can I go in and leave a comment?
You sure can. Yeah. Love the show, just except for that Woody and Hutch guy, but the host is awesome. Darren in Vegas.
I wasn't going to do that. At least not to you. Woody?
I'm speechless. I got nothing.
Never.
I feel like we missed an opportunity with segments on this program because we could have had just one more with Woody and tag
well,
that
when he's back in the locker room, that could be a separate segment.
Just one more.
Just one more.
Brought to you by fill in the blank. That would be outstanding. Woody, it's an organic segment.
Oh yeah, listen, I'm already thinking about sponsorship for this one.
Hey, how's your men's league going? You're back in the ice. Everything adapting well?
I'm surviving.
Really?
Yeah. Not well, but I'm surviving.
Good.
No, I wouldn't say we're.
I'm very happy to have you back on the ice. I love it on a regular basis, not just once every 4 months. I'm pumped for you.
3 and 4 starting tonight. I'm filling in tonight in a Div 2 game. Tomorrow off. Monday night skate on Monday, which has gotten crazy fast, and then Tuesday is my old man beer league.
Nice.
So got some things to sort of push me, and then just try and have fun at my old man skate.
Got to talk to management, Woody. You can't be running the starter out there 3 and 4. It's just not good come the end of the season.
Yeah, I know.
You can't pass up the opportunity to put those 2 points in the bank early. You don't want to be playing catch up later, so that's why he's playing 3 and 4 to start.
Just pushing him hard, yeah.
Yeah, really pushing him hard. Good luck, Woody. Play well, my friend.
I will try.
They're the co-founders of InGoal magazine, Kevin Woodley and David Hutchison. Thanks to Cam over at The Hockey Shop, source for Sports Surrey, thehockeyshop.com, as well as Chris Driedger from the Seattle Kraken. Hope you enjoyed it. Can't wait to talk to you next week on InGoal Radio, the podcast.